What's going on, YouTube? This is SG1 Sports, and you're watching our SEC channel. We're going to preview the 2024 schedule for the Kentucky Wildcats here in this video. Before we get to 2024, let's look back at the schedule from 2023. Here was the schedule from last season for Kentucky, and you can see 5 losses: Georgia, Missouri, Tennessee, Alabama, and South Carolina. So lost to the four teams that wound up in the top 25, and then South Carolina. But they did beat Louisville. That was a huge win at the end of the season for them. And it's the same schedule every year as far as the non-conference. They're going to play 3 cupcakes, and they're going to play Louisville, and that's the same thing in 2024. That's what you see here on this schedule. You look at the non-conference. It's Southern Miss, Ohio, Murray State, and Louisville. I can't remember, and maybe I'm not remembering correctly, but I can't remember the last time that Kentucky played a quality non-conference game outside of that Louisville game. And, I don't blame them. If you got Louisville, a Power 5 opponent on the schedule, why would you play another one and when you're a team like Kentucky? Because it's not like you're a powerhouse. So it makes sense to me why they would not schedule these teams. But you maybe like to see Kentucky go out and play one of these better non-conference games outside of Louisville. But, Ohio and Southern Miss are not terrible Group of 5 teams, so those could be somewhat interesting games. You look at the home schedule. Southern Miss, Ohio, Murray State, Louisville, just showed you this. So all 4 of their non-conference games are at home. Then they get South Carolina, Georgia, Vanderbilt, and Auburn. Georgia, that's going to be a tough one, obviously. But South Carolina, Vandy, and Auburn, all games that they can win at home. And right there, you look at those 3 games, and if they win their 3 cupcake non-conference games, they're already to a bowl game. So, again, that's kind of why you maybe don't schedule the tough non-conference schedule. But this road schedule is brutal. Take a look. At Ole Miss, at Florida, at Tennessee, at Texas. So you're talking about Ole Miss, Tennessee, and Texas, probably 3 of the top 7 or 8 teams in the SEC. You got to play all of them on the road. And then Florida is always a tough place to play. That is a very, very tough road schedule for Kentucky this season. That's overall the schedule may not be too bad, but road schedule, it might be the toughest in the SEC. And maybe we'll come back and do some rankings there to look at the home and road schedules. But this is this full schedule again. They open up with Southern Miss on August the 31st. Then it's right into SEC play, South Carolina on the 7th, and then Georgia after that on the 14th. They play Ohio on September 21st. So the first 4 games all at home. You've got 2 easier Group of 5 opponents, and then you've got 2 SEC games. We'll know a lot about Kentucky. A lot of times it seems like they'll play maybe 1 SEC game and then they'll play all their other cupcake games early. But by the time we get to week 5, they would have already played both South Carolina and Georgia. So we'll know a lot about Kentucky by that time. And even more once we get to the end of September. They play Ole Miss on the road on September 28th. That'll be their first road game. That'll obviously be a tough one. They get a bye week after that, and it would, I think, help Kentucky more to maybe have that bye week before Ole Miss instead of after them. But again, I guess it gives them a chance to recover after that game, which should be a very tough one. They come back and get Vanderbilt. Should be a fairly easy game there on October the 12th. Then it's back on the road at Florida on the 19th. Then back home for Auburn on the 26th. So they've got their schedule staggered really well. It's home away, home away. Don't have any back-to-back road games. They play Tennessee on the road on November 2nd, and then they get a bye week. So it's just like we saw at the top of the schedule, the first bye week. After playing a tough road game, they get a bye week instead of maybe before that tough road game, which is interesting. I don't think that really helps you out too much, but they play Murray State. Who do you want to play after a bye week? Do you want to play Ole Miss and Tennessee, or do you want to play Vanderbilt and Murray State? So I don't really like the bye weeks here for Kentucky. Unless you could look at it and say, well, Vanderbilt's not a bye week, but Murray State's basically like a bye week, so you get 2 weeks almost to prepare for Texas. I guess you could look at it that way. But Texas on the road there on the 23rd, obviously going to be a tough one, and they'll close things out with Louisville on November 30th. So like I said, if you take care of business at home in those games outside of the Georgia game and you win the 3 easier non-conference games, a bowl game looks to be fairly easy for Kentucky. But that road schedule, man, it is tough. Ole Miss, Florida, Tennessee, Texas. Then you've also got Louisville, who's a rivalry game. I know Kentucky's gotten the better of them in recent years, but that one could be a tough one as well. So overall, You know, it's not a super tough schedule because the non-conference is not that bad, but they do play several of the top teams in the SEC, and they have a very tough road schedule. So all in all, a pretty tough schedule for Kentucky in 2024.